Hi there BookTube, it's Eleanor here, and today I'm doing my What I've Read This Week. So this week's been a bit of a mixed bag for me. It's been a slow-ish week in some ways and fast in others. There are books that I'm not going to talk about today that I have read, but you will have already seen a review for The Fixer by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, which I have up on my channel, so you can check that out if you want to find out my views on that. But this week I've completed a big book via Audible, and I also read some graphic novels and a slightly smaller book. So first let's talk about the graphic novels. The first graphic novel that I read is Journey by Francesca Sana. So this is the story of refugees. It's a refugee story. It's quite a simple story. It's more of the essence of being a refugee rather than the story about any particular person. It's more of a generalised view of what it can be like to be a refugee and the journey to escape somewhere which isn't safe for your family. I really enjoyed the artwork in this, and I really enjoyed the way that the sort of tension was built via the artwork, because the words in this are sparse and very simple and told from a childish point of view, and yet the artwork in this really shows the sort of suspense, the stress and the anguish that is faced, especially by those that really understand what's going on, so the mother in this situation. So I really liked how this book let the imagery do the talking, and I ended up giving it 4 stars. The next book I picked up was one that I was very kindly gifted by Caitlin from Kitty G, who was getting rid of her copy, and that is Giant Days by Alison and Tremar and Kogar, and this is volume 1. So I've been a little bit nervous about picking this one up because I've heard some mixed reviews, and I just wasn't 100% sure it would work for me, because it's set, it's a story of 3 girls who are friends at university, and it's been a while since I've been at university, so I wasn't sure if I'd really connect with the girls, but I really shouldn't have worried. This book has really great art. I really enjoy the colourful palette, the really clean lines, and I just really like this cartoony style with bright colours going through, so I enjoyed that. It's also a really relatable story. I think it talks about a lot of our journeys at university, that forming of friendships, and the very first sort of chapter or issue is, you know, why are we friends? What brought us together? What sort of things have brought us together? And it's about those friendships you do form and the lasting friendships, and how everyone is different, but you seem to sort of find a space for each other in your uni experience. As I say, I love the dynamic between the 3 girls. We've got 3 very different characters, and yet they really mesh together nicely, and I like the banter between the 3 of them, which is really fun. Even in the first chapter, I think it was, there was a mention of ASMR, which I was really interested in because it's something which I do have, and it's something that is becoming a lot more well known, especially amongst the YouTube community. There is a whole community of ASMR watchers, of which I am one of them. And if you don't know what ASMR is, I'm not 100% sure what it stands for, but basically it's certain sounds that if I hear certain sounds, or sometimes it can be the way someone speaks, it makes my head go all tingly, and it's a really weird feeling. It's a nice feeling, and I think I've got quite mild ASMR, but a lot of people can get sort of these tingles that go all over their body, and it's just a really weird thing to describe. A bit like a head orgasm. I don't know. Does that sound? That makes it sound a bit creepy, but it's not creepy. Anyway, there's a mention of that in there, which made me sort of smile to myself because I thought it was really funny. And I really enjoy the array of diverse characters in terms of sexuality. We've got different characters and different sexualities in here, and they're just made you know, part of the story and really flow quite nicely, and I really enjoyed that. So I was really pleasantly surprised with this graphic novel, and I ended up giving it 4 stars, and I will definitely be continuing with volume 2 as soon as I can get my hands on it. And then the next one I picked up was Pluto Nuh, and this is by Jeff Lemire, Emmy Lennox and Geordie Belair. This is what I thought was the start of a series, but what actually I believe now to be a standalone, which has thrown me a little bit for a loop. I think I wanted this to be more than it was, and the ending was very abrupt. So now knowing that it's not going to be continuing, I just feel a little bit sort of lost. It felt too abrupt. It didn't really wrap things up in a way that I would have liked. And I feel like we didn't get to know the characters enough, especially the character of Teddy, who is one of the sort of main characters in this. I think in this, if we'd had a bit more information on each of the children's backstories and their lives, then that would have made them more characters you could sort of relate to and really sort of feel an emotional pull for. But because it was so short and we didn't have time to elaborate on each of the children's stories enough, I just didn't feel like we got to know them enough to really say this was a brilliant story. I do think it's interesting in terms of seeing how different characters react to certain situations. The basic storyline of this is it's set in a world where superheroes exist, and one of those superheroes, who is sort of the greatest one, Pluto Nuh, has been found by a group of children dead in the forest, and it's them sort of deciding what to do with this, how to go about dealing with this, and each of them has different viewpoints and various different things happen, and that's what we're following. But as I say, I was a bit disappointed with the ending of this, and finding out that it's just a standalone is thrown me a little bit for a loop, so I couldn't give it more than 3 stars. Next up, I read a YA contemporary story, London Belongs to Us by Sarah Manning. Now you may remember that I read Sarah Manning's You Don't Have to Say You Love Me recently, which is one of her adult books. This is one of her YA books, and I wanted to try some more of hers, so I borrowed this from the library. It's the story of Sunny. She's a 17-year-old girl who lives in London, and she has a boyfriend called Mark and a best friend called Emmeline, and we start the story with her and Emmeline going for a picnic with some of Emmeline's roller derby friends, and it's basically the story of her receiving a text message picture from one of her friends of her boyfriend Mark kissing another girl, and this sets in motion a bit of an adventure around London, chasing Mark up to find out what's happened, along with an array of characters, and I really enjoyed this. It was really good fun. I really like how Sarah writes dialogue. She writes it very real. You just really feel that this is the sort of way that people would talk. It feels very natural. Our main protagonist in this is of mixed heritage, and I find that really interesting, and I just really enjoyed this. We've got loads of different fun characters, and at the beginning of every chapter we have a description. So because she's doing a bit of a tour of London, she is going to and from various different places on her journey, and at the beginning of the chapters, the chapter is called, so this one is called Clapham, and then we get sort of a good deal of information and backstory about Clapham, which I thought was quite interesting. And also interspersed in this, there is just quirky little things. There's a song, there's some text messages which are in bold, there's a bit of a pie chart, and it was just a really fun way of engaging and pulling us through to the next chapter. I read this in 2 sittings. It was a really, really fast read. I really like Sunny's progression and how she starts to come into herself, find her own identity, find her voice, stop being a doormat, which I quite liked. And this is a story which has really great side characters. We get to know their story as well. We get to know a little bit about them and their personalities, and they're really great. And she's got a really great friendship group, which is strong. I like that these stories where we have strong friendship groups, because not all friendship groups break down and have trouble, and yeah, I really like how her friends come together to help her with this. This was a solid 3.5 stars for me. Not quite a 4 stars, but a solid 3.5. And then finally, one that I've been working on for a while, I've read Ship of Magic by Robin Hobb. And I say read, I read little bits of it, but really I listened to this via the Audible app. On Audible, I used my credit for this month to get this one, and I'm really pleased I did. It definitely helped me get into the story, hearing it read. The narrator of this was really good, and it's a mammoth book, and I got through it in a few weeks. It was just really, really good fun to listen to. Now, if you don't know my relationship with Robin Hobb and me have not got on so far. I started the first of her books set in this sort of world, which was Assassin's Apprentice, which is the start of her first sort of mini trilogy, and I just was a bit meh, and I wasn't going to carry on. And then Mercedes and Caitlin kept telling me that I don't have to read all of the books, I could miss out those two in the trilogy and start this one, and that I could read this trilogy instead. And they thought perhaps this different set of characters might be more for me. And so I thought, right, I'm finally just going to give it a go. I'm going to try it out and see what I think. And they were right. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the characters in this. It's set in the same world, but it's set in a place where these ships called live ships are, so you know the old-fashioned ships which have the sort of figures on the front? Those ships, when 3 of the generation who own the ship have died, on their decks come alive and can speak, and when they're alive it means that the ships can go into certain places and certain parts of this world that they couldn't before. And it's just about an array of characters. We're following Althea, who is I think probably our main character in this, who is the daughter of the captain of one such live ship who has died, and she believes that she should be getting the ship next, and there's a bit of a thing there within her family. And then also in her family we've got Malta, who is a 12-year-old girl who you know, is very advanced and is wanting to be a woman way before she should be, and the things that she does. And then we have Wintro, who is also in this family, and he had been sent off to become a priest, and now things have changed and we find out his story. There's Brashen, who is a sailor. There's Kennet, who is a pirate. I mean, we're just following loads of different characters, and I can't wait. Next month I'm definitely going to pick up the next book in this with my credit from Audible and listen again. I think that's what I'm going to do with these, because I'm really enjoying listening to them on audio. I'm going to start borrowing them from the library and then listening to them throughout a month, and one a month on Audible, and get through them that way, because I'm really enjoying this. I'm looking forward to seeing where book 2 goes, and I'm so pleased that I finally found a Robin Hood I liked, because I felt really left out that I wasn't enjoying them, and now I feel like I found my little place. I didn't quite give this 5 stars, but it's definitely a big 4 stars from me, and a thumbs up for Robin Hobb. Yeah, so that's all that I read this week. Let me know what you've been reading as usual. Let me know your thoughts on these books, and let's chat in the comments below. And don't forget, if you're interested in the book buddy box, there is going to be one in December. There's still some left, but they are selling out. So yeah, head over to my Etsy store, link down below if you're interested in that. Anyway, that's it from me. Bye for now, BookTube.